A pleasant good morning to you out there, listener. You're welcome. This is Radio Nigeria, Highland 101.5 FM. Just my name is Stephen Ego, and this is the maiden edition of the program brought to you by Ziva Community Initiative. And our topic of discuss for today is the introduction to ASM and the energy transition in Nigeria. My guest on the program is Mr. Omajo Odego, who is the Acting Executive Director, Ziva Community Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's discussion on artisanal and small-scale mining ASM and its pivotal role in Nigeria's energy transition. In this program, we shall be having a phone-in session. We shall be having a phone-in session on the program much later on after our discuss, and we shall be exploring the current state of ASM in Nigeria, its relevance to energy transition, key minerals driving this transition, and how ASM is shaping the global energy landscape. Once again, this program is sponsored by Ziva Community Initiative with support from the Africa Center for Energy Policy. Alright, once again, welcome. This is Radio Nigeria Highland 101.5 FM Jos, and this is the maiden edition of the Ziva Community Initiative Radio Engagement. Like I said earlier, my guest in the studio is Mr. Omajo Odego, and he is the Acting Executive Director, Ziva Community Initiative. And on the program today, we shall be discussing, introducing ASM and the energy transition in Nigeria. ASM stands for Artisanal and Small Scale Mining. Okay, enough from me. Let's hear the subject matter expert himself discuss and tell us what ASM is. But first of all, before you tell us what ASM is, sir, can you tell us, give us a brief history about Ziva Community Initiative, what it is, what it does?
Okay, thank you very much. A very good afternoon, listeners. A very good afternoon, Nigerians out there. Ziva Community Initiative is a non-governmental organization, an NGO that is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that the community where artisanal and small-scale miners are, the communities are developed, the people are empowered for growth and to have a very friendly ecosystem where everybody can survive both financially, environmentally, and in every area of life. So, Ziva's mission is to enhance the contribution of artisanal miners to community development. So, we are trying to see how miners can add value to the development of their communities. Like the Plateau is one of the mining destinations in Nigeria. And if you go into our communities, you're going to see a lot of environmental degradation. So Ziva is trying to see how we can empower these miners, we can build their capacities, we can encourage and see how government can also come to their aid to see how their environment can be remediated. We are looking at some ethical behavior, their social responsibilities, and advocacies, education. Those are different strategies that Ziva deploys in its activities. We realize that, as you know, there's a global shift from the use of fossil fuel to cleaner energy, what we call green energy. So Ziva went into research and we realized that there should be a nexus between the role of the artisanal miners and the energy transition plan and the climate change. And that is what gave birth to this project that the African Center for Energy Policy, ACE, based in Accra, Ghana, decided to support us to see how we can have that nexus being established and see how the ASM, the miners, can play a very strategic role in the energy transition plan of Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Majo. Okay, now can you tell us what the project is? You've talked about Ziva, you've given us a brief on who or what Ziva is, and you mentioned a project. Can you shed more light on what that project is?
Okay, like I said, basically what we're trying to do, in COP28, when Nigeria also was a signatory to the energy transition plan, we have a 2060 net zero fossil carbon in the atmosphere, emission in the atmosphere. So when President Muhammad Buhari came to Nigeria, came back from the Paris Agreement, the so Paris Agreement that was signed there, and then he quickly inaugurated energy transition committee, and that committee gave birth to what we call the energy transition plan in Nigeria. The idea is to see how we can quietly or very subtly dovetail from the use of fossil fuel to a more source of cleaner energies. And the energy transition minerals are very strategic to this plan. And who are the people involved in the energy transition minerals, the miners? So we started thinking in Ziva, we started saying, okay, we need to see how we can empower our miners to be very strategic in the energy transition process. So many, if you go out there, you see a lot of solar panels, a lot of lithium batteries, and these things are mostly imported into Nigeria. So we are saying, how can we bridge the gap, the knowledge gap, the skill gap of our miners? How can we bridge their gap and see how they can be involved in industrialization of the energy transition process? How can we transfer knowledge to them so that they can also not just mine these minerals and sell it off? How can they add value to these minerals, what we call mineral value addition and beneficiation? So that is what we're doing on this project. We're working in Plateau, we're working in Nasarawa State. These are mining destinations in Nigeria where you have a lot of energy transition minerals. You have a lot of miners that are right into these minerals. So in the next 12 months, we'll be doing a lot of capacity building, a lot of advocacy, a lot of campaigns to see how investors can come into Nigeria and also see how they can not just buy up our minerals, but how can they build the capacity of our miners so that they can also, I'll be proud to see a Nigerian miner building a solar panel, building a LED battery. Okay, these are cleaner energies, and then we have all the minerals that it entails to build all these minerals. So this is what basically the project is involved. If you do this, you realize that the idea of climate change is mitigated. If you know what is happening now, if you go to the Niger Delta where you and I are from, there's a lot of gas flaring, the depletion of the ozone layer, a lot of greenhouse gases being emitted, and then this has resulted over years into what we call climate change. And we are trying to say, okay, yes, since Nigeria is also a signatory, how can we also have a clean atmosphere? How can we have a clean atmosphere? How can we reduce as much as possible our carbon emissions? And this is a project that we think we paved the way for us to have a smooth transition. Nigeria also so dependent on crude. We can't stop Nigeria's crude at the moment. We can't say let's not use crude. So we need a more strategic framework that will help us transit from the dependence on crude and gas and all those to more cleaner energy. So that's basically what we'll be focusing on in the next 12 months on this project.
All right, all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Wajo. We shall be talking more about that project itself, discussing the challenges and all the support you will need for that. But before we get there, can we talk about ASM itself? Many listeners out there are wondering what ASM means. Can you shed more light on what ASM is?
Okay, the Nigerian mining sector is predominantly artisanal. Artisanal means crude. They do things in a very local way. So ASM means artisanal and small scale mining. ASM. And we realized that over 90% of our mining in Nigeria is done at the artisanal level. That means the little contribution that this mining sector is contributing to the GDP it's from the artisanals, it's from the artisans. So how can we formalize the ASM? So if you go out there, they call them illegal. So we're trying to say, okay, no, can we move them from the nomenclature of illegality to something that is more formal? And that is what we're doing, also part of what Ziva is doing. We're trying to formalize them. We have the Department of ASM in the ministry in Abuja, and then we try to create that linkages, form them into cooperatives, make them formal, apply for licenses, and they can now work with a license. So ASM are those miners that you see out there doing it with their hammers, doing it with their hoes, those are artisanal miners. Compare us with other clients out there, West or other developed mining destinations across the world, you realize that we are still scratching the surface. So how can we boost our mining sector? How can we capacitate these our artisanal miners to become industrial miners? So that is our focus because it's a big cash cow for Nigeria if we can beam our light on the ASM on the mining sector in Nigeria. So that is basically what ASM entails.
Okay. What about the contribution of ASM to GDP as you just mentioned? Would you put a figure on it?
Okay, that's one major challenge that we have as a country, lack of bankable data.
Yeah.
So as an investor coming to Nigeria, he wants to know where our mines are. He wants to know what mineral is there. He wants to know the volume of mineral out there. He wants to know so many things before he can. The mining sector has a very long gestation period and it's capital intensive. That means you have to put a lot of money before you start gaining profit. You must have invested a lot into it. So that is one challenge that we have realized in the Nigerian mining sector: lack of data. So when you say I should put figures to it, those are things that I cannot be able to pinpoint and say this is the number of artisanal miners we have in Nigeria. Okay, it becomes a challenge, a very huge challenge for us. So Ziva, basically what we're trying to do in our own small corner in the scope of the project we are working in is to see how we can formalize these miners to ensure that every miner on the mining site is working under a particular license. And the traditional leaders have sole responsibility to ensure that maintenance of order, peace and order in those communities is also achieved. So basically that's what we're doing, that's what we are doing. And Nigeria has a lot of mineral resources, a lot. There's virtually no state in Nigeria that don't have one mineral or the other. So to put figures to our ASM or mining sector is a big challenge that even the ministry is facing. Talk more of Ziva, which is just an NGO. So we'll do our best, we'll play our bit to see how we can generate some level of data as much as possible. We have so many other like minds, CSOs out there that are also doing great jobs in the mining sector. So with all these little baby steps, I'm sure that we can make headway.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's talk about the mining sector itself now and ASM. It is said that they make up 80% of our mining sector. How true is this?
Yeah, so those are like speculations which are not realistic, but not you don't have it's not empirical. Okay, if you go out there, you realize that our mining sector truly is predominantly artisanal. Okay, you have very few big mining companies in Nigeria operating. You can count them with your fingertips. Okay, yes, they are mining companies, and most of them are not indigenous. Okay, they are not indigenous, they are foreign, Indians, Chinese, very few that are indigenous big mining companies that are not operating under small scale mining lease. Okay, these are artisanal miners, these are miners that are operating with a mining lease. Okay, but to have our Nigerian or our indigenous mining companies operating under a mining lease, that means the indigenous company must be very big, super big enough to be able to do that. So what we are doing basically is to see that these figures are not just speculative. These figures are not just something that is out there. If you look at native, what native is also native is like the monitor of the extractive sector in Nigeria. Okay, NATI is Nigerian Strategic Industry Transparency Initiative. Their responsibility is to ensure that all the frameworks that governs the mining sector is adhered to, and then they play a very strategic role in the mining sector and the oil and gas sector. So when you talk about data, like I rightly said, is one major challenge that Nigeria that has been dealt with in the Nigerian mining sector.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Um, in your introduction, you mentioned having a nexus between the ASM and energy transition. So, what role or how does ASM what does ASM have to do with energy transition? So you're talking about energy transition and you're talking about ASM, crude implements, and all that. How will they aid us in that transition?
Okay, like I rightly said initially, Nigeria is a signatory to the Paris Agreement, and then we're supposed to have a net zero carbon emission by 2060. So how can we achieve that? We need cleaner sources of energy. We need green energy. We need the artisanal miners to come on board to see how they can achieve that. And what are these cleaner sources of energy? Like I said initially, the the lead batteries, the 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 lithium batteries, the solar panels. All these are technologies that manufactured through the use of one mineral or the other. So who are the people involved in this mineral mining? The artisanals. So we deployed a researcher which is out there in the field, trying to not just having a speculation on the nexus. Yes, we know there's a linkage, but we need to see real empirical data, real empirical linkages between artisanal miners and the energy transition, which the overall goal is to have zero, which is climate change. Yes. Which is trying to mitigate climate change as much as possible. So this is one activity that we are carrying out in this research. We've deployed a very sound researcher who is out there carrying out a lot of interviews with secondary and primary data, doing a lot of at least I've seen the questionnaire that they are deploying. I've seen the methodology that they are also deploying, and I believe that towards the end of this project, we'll have a very solid document that clearly shows the linkage between its ASM and the the energy transition plan in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, before we take a break, um, Ziva itself, what is Ziva leveraging on to execute this project?
Okay, over the years, Ziva has worked with the ministry. Like I said, Ziva is a community-based organization. We are grassrooted, based in Plateau State, just Plateau State. So we have a very strong rapport with artisanal miners. We have a very strong relationship with the Ministry of Solid Minerals. We have a very strong relationship with NATI. We have a very strong relationship with other civil society actors in that are playing major roles in the sector. So Ziva is leveraging on its relationship or on its robust network, on its experience, the experience of Ziva, and it's also leveraging on our relationship with international organizations also. For instance, the African Center for Energy Policy in ASEC, which is based in Accra, Ghana, saw the work we are doing and they said, okay, how can we partner to bring this to fusion, to bring this to fore? So that is one very strong allies that we have out there, and so many. The UN women, the women in mining, both in Africa, in Ghana, in Nigeria, and other parts of the African continent, and then a lot of network that we also belong to. These are our sustainability plans. So with or without ASEP, with or without funding from ASEP, we can leverage on our relationship with our networks to see how we can continue the work. So that's one very strong plan that we have.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Onajo. All right, listener, at this point in time, we shall be taking a break, and when we return back from that break, the phone lines will be made available to you, so you can call in and ask a question or two on ASM. Stay with us. All right, listener, you're welcome back on the program. If you're just joining us, this is Radio Nigeria, Highland 101.5 FM Just, and the program is Ziva Community Initiative. And our topic of discuss today is an introduction to ASM and the energy transition in Nigeria. My guest in the studio is Mr. Omajo Odego, who is the Acting Executive Director, Ziva Community Initiative, and we've had lengthy talks so far on ASM and energy transition in Nigeria. If you want to be part of the discuss, call us on 081 000 81124. That's 081 000 81124. Call us and be part of the program. We are waiting for your calls to come in. All right, Mr. Omajo, while we wait on the callers, let's continue to discuss. Now let's focus on some key minerals that are driving energy transition. Can you talk about some of the key minerals that are driving this energy transition?
Okay, the energy transition minerals that generate energy that are very useful in technology and
All right, sorry, I have to interject here. We have a call coming in. Hello, good morning. Hello. Hello, good morning. Okay, good morning. You're welcome on the program. So your name and where you calling us from? Okay, please can you tell us your name and where you're calling us from? Can you tell us your name and where you're calling us from? Sorry, can you repeat your name? Please, can you repeat your name? You're not audible. You said you're calling us from Bukuru Locust. Yes, what's your name, please? Sorry. Your name, sorry, your name. Okay, Mr. Joseph from Bukuru Locust, okay. He wants to know the location of Ziva and your phone number. All right. Okay, the website and phone number.
Okay, Mr. Josie, good morning. If you go to www.zivacommunities, communities in plural, .org, www.zivacommunities.org. Yeah, you get all the relevant information that you need there. With our address, with our phone numbers. Ziva, the Z-I-V-A. Z-I-V-A. Z-I-V-A communities together. Zivacommunities.org. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for calling in. Do have a splendid day and continue to join us on the program, please. All right, that was our first call. Sorry, I interjected before this call came in.
Okay, no problem. Like I said, energy transition minerals are minerals that is useful or that are useful in the energy transition plan. These are energy generating minerals like lithium, like cobalt, like nickel, like even tin. These are minerals that most technology driven companies use to generate to for their production, for their technologies. And we realized that Plateau and Nasarawa was strategically chosen because of the endowment of these energy transition minerals. So that's what we'll be doing in the next 12 months. We'll be seeing how these minerals can be brought to fore. How can these minerals be used for technology driven energy? And that is what we'll be doing basically in this next 12 months.
All right, thank you very much. All right, my next question. ASM is not just relevant to Nigeria, it is also playing a crucial role in global energy landscape. Can you shed more light on this?
Yeah, artisanal small scale miners are they are not just it's not just peculiar to Nigeria. The challenges encountered were by ASM is across board. We've traveled and we've seen that it's not just Nigeria that have this challenge. And the peculiarity is the fact that the sector is capital intensive. So being capital intensive, meaning automatically it has separated some persons from investing in the sector. And those people that have been separated are the miner, they are the artisanal miners. So the idea is this. Since you need, for instance, in a Ebonyi State where I worked for like almost 3 4 years on a project, I realized that the women, the artisanal miners rent an excavator for 300,000 naira every day, just because they want to get deep into the mine lead, just because they want to go deeper. They hire 300,000 naira for an excavator every day. That means, and I asked, do you people meet up to the payment? And they said yes, they normally meet up. So as a private investor, I go and rent my excavator for you. That means these women or these artisanal miners actually have resources to pay for 300,000 naira rent every day. I don't know how much they rent, but I'm sure it's almost the same thing on the Plateau and in Nasarawa State. So it shows that the sector is capital intensive. It's not everybody that can afford that to be paying 300,000 naira every blessed day. And then we were in Accra this year, last year, and then it's the same issues. If you see artisanal miners from across Africa coming to speak, or investors or players in this sector coming to speak, we realize that the challenges are across board. We have illegalities across board. We have insecurity across board. We have lack of infrastructure across board. We have there's a perceived political interference also. Now you see, okay, for instance, in Zamfara, mining was banned. In Taraba, mining was banned. Yes, it's still banned up till now. So why are they interfering with the miners? Why are they interfering? Yes, they tell us that yes, they are trying to see how they can restructure, I can plan the sector, I can plan the state well, but you realize that there's so many hidden things behind the scene going on that we cannot see because of the position insecurity ahead of whatsoever. So anytime insecurity is placed in front, okay, yeah, it's against the state, it's something, and they just place it that way. So insecurity is one issue. Lack of technology, lack of skill. There's a huge skill gap, a very big gap between in this with these artisanal miners. Some of them don't even know how to identify these energy transition minerals. Yeah. They don't even know the value. They don't know the international value. They don't know the worth. I met a woman, very old woman. She was 17. She was 17, and I said, "Mama, now you're 19. Now it's like serious." Dana, come ask someone who will be one year, sir. How many kg? How many kg? They sell maybe 50 kg or thereabout. Then she said, even though, then I now googled. She said even though she gets 2,000, she's okay. I now googled the London Metal Exchange Market. I now saw that okay, tin is actually sold at almost 2 million naira per 50 kg. Wow! So you can imagine the lack of knowledge because this woman, these people, these artisanal don't even know the value of what they are doing. And you see, if you go into our minds, you see a lot of Chinese, you see a lot of Indians, you see a lot of foreigners right in our minds, taking off our resources. Yes, they are licensed. Yes, they are not illegal. They go through the ministry, they obtain their license, they go into the field. Why? Because they are coming with a knowledge. They are coming with the fact that they know the value of these minerals. And there is a trade secret that they will not tell us. These are things that they will not tell us. They find their way to the borders and they move out the minerals. Yes, everything is done in a very transparent manner. You think they pay their royalty, but the value of this mineral, if it's coming back to Nigeria, is completely different from the raw form that these people remove it. So we're trying to say no. We are going to start adding value to our minerals. We are going to start adding beneficiation to our minerals. So we've already highlighted lack of bankable data. This is one major challenge that we have also in the mining sector in Nigeria. So you can imagine all these issues are across board. All these issues are cross purpose in across the African continent and even in some other continents outside Africa. In Accra, for instance, where we had the Future Energy Conference, we had several. It was hosted by ASEP with support of with the partnership of so many like minds organizations, and the issues that were coming out from that conference is mind blowing. It's mind blowing. How can we transit from the use of fossil fuel to a more cleaner energy? And we cannot do but to see the role the artisanal miners can play in achieving this energy transition plan.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Amaja. Radio Nigeria Highland 101.5 FM Jos. The program is Ziva Community Initiative, and our topic of discuss today is Introduction to ASM and the Energy Transition in Nigeria. My guest is Mr. Omajo Odego, the Acting Executive Director, Ziva Community Initiative. Our phone number to join in is 081 000 81124. 081 000 81124. Join in and call and join in on the conversation. All right, Mr. Amajo, you were talking about the ASM, and in your earlier submission, you mentioned the crude implements that they use, and we want to bring them and partner with them to attain the energy transition program or initiative in Nigeria. With the use of such crude implements, how are we going to get them on that program? Since they are still very artisanal, very crude, how are we going to migrate them, first of all, to using modern or state-of-the-art machinery or equipment for them to be part and parcel of the program? How are we going to transition them and move them from that crude state to this to the desired state?
Okay, like I said, the sector is capital intensive, and these miners cannot do it themselves. An investor can only come in if there are clear-cut potentials that he is seeing or she is seeing in the sector. That is only when an investor can come in. The use of machineries is one major challenge, which is the skill gap I've been highlighting long before now. If you give them the machine, they may not even know how to operate it. So it's a gap, it's a challenge. And I say the training that we'll be hosting them, we'll be hosting the artisanal miners 3 days intensive technical training. We have resource persons that will be coming to see the real generation of energy with these minerals. They are going to see it. So that's fears will be allayed when the time comes. And after the project, after the training, it will create a very strong platform for any investor that wants to come and do equipment leasing, for instance. You are an investor, and then you have money, you have equipment, and then you want to lease it out for these miners too. So what is my own benefit as an investor to this miner? Yes, I have this equipment. I'm going to train the miners for them to be using. Look at the excavator example I gave. They may not be able to buy excavator into millions, run into millions, but they have the 300,000 naira to invest into it. And at some point, we will say, okay, how can the government even come into it? How can you buy excavators or equipment for these people so that they can rent in a more subsidized rate? Most times, all the money goes into equipment leasing, equipment rentage. Most of the money is going into all this. So the use of skill, the role of their skill is very important, and we have to build their capacity. They need to know the technology involved, and that is the major challenge. That is the trade secret that most of these investors will not want our miners to have. And Ziva is saying, no, we're going to bridge that gap, and we're going to ensure that our miners are brought to speed to how these minerals are being converted into usable form of energy.
All right. My next question will address the issue of the skill gap that you mentioned. What about environmental impacts?
Okay, environmental impact is one issue that has bedeviled the sector over the years. If you go into our mines, you see a lot of pits, everywhere, and then there's a rule of environmental remediation. After a particular period where you mine, as a miner, you're supposed to reclaim the land back. You're supposed to use the land is supposed to return back to its natural form. And most times they don't do it. So that is what That is why you see a lot of pits out there, which has caused a lot of accidents, that caused a lot of death for us, a lot of, you see animals drowning into it, human beings dying into it. And then we're trying to say, yes, environmental issue is at the center of what we're doing. And it's all about advocacy, it's all about campaign, it's all about talking, we must talk. There's no how you, as an investor, you come into our minds and then you don't have an environmental impact assessment plan. Okay, your environmental impact assessment shows clearly the impact of what you want to do to the environment, what you want to do vis-a-vis your activity and the impact to the environment. And if it's, most times they don't even look at the outcome of the plan of the environmental impact assessment, because an environmental impact statement is always released after the assessment is done. And you see, some of them keep it one side and still go ahead to them the consequences. And that is what has caused a lot of deaths, a lot of accidents in the mines. Because why? They don't put structures in place that will mitigate all those accidents and all those things that the assessment has highlighted. So Ziva is saying yes, we have environmental issues, but we need to carry out mining in a more environmental friendly way. So as the ministry, which is saddled with responsibility overseeing activities in the mining sector, how do they monitor investors to ensure that reclamation is done? Reclamation is done. And then if you go to other states that we have worked in, we've built their capacity. Most of these miners can speak out now. Most of these miners can talk. Because initially they were completely blind, they don't know anything, they're only just to mine and sell. They're actually used as laborers. Yes, they are artisanal miners, yes, they are peasants, but they are actually short-changed. But you see, they are gaining their confidence back. You come into our community, you don't have a community development plan for us. So we are saying, no, anybody that comes into your community, you must ask for the community development plan. And those plans are not just, you don't just import it. You sit with all the stakeholders in the community and you develop the plan. The plan involves what are the basic needs, the primary needs of the community. Women, youth, children, men, everything must be put in that framework. Then you can now say, okay, yes, this is our community development plan. As an investor, you come in 1 year, this is what you want to do for us. In 2 years, this is what you want to do for us. We don't have roads, we don't have water, we don't have electricity. As long as you're taking out this mineral, you must give back to the community. So and environment is one major part that also comes into play when it comes to talk about the community development agreement. So Ziva is doing a lot, and I'm sure other organizations are doing a lot to ensure that we have an environmental friendly mines for miners.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Maja. All right, 081 000 81124. That's 081 000 81124. That's the number to call if you want to join in on the discuss. Today we are discussing artisanal and small scale mining, energy transition, and climate mitigation, brought to you by Ziva. All right. Um, I'm talking, okay. We have a call. We have a call. All right. Let's listen in on this call. Hello, good morning. Yes, good morning and welcome on the program. Afternoon. So, sorry, what's your name and where are you calling us from? Okay, Adams from Utah. Good afternoon. Sorry, can you repeat your question? Sorry, can you repeat your question, please? Okay. Yes, we can hear you. So,
Okay, okay, thank you very much. So basically what we do is to build your capacity, make you formalized, because there are a lot of funds out there, like in the Bank of Industry, in the Nexim Bank. There are so many funds that are out there that is for artisanal miners. And then most times we don't meet up to the recommendations or the criteria to access those funds. So what Ziva can do, or what Ziva is doing to miners, is to make sure they are formalized. Once you are formalized, you can meet up to the criteria that you can access all those funds either from the Bank of Industry or from the Nexim Bank. We can show you the way how to. If the ministry don't identify you as a registered miner, you can't access funds. You can't access support. So the ministry must be able to know you, must be able to know that okay, you're not an illegal miner, you're operating under a particular license, and then you are known. You pay your royalties, you pay your tax and everything. Okay, okay. Those are documents that you will need. Those are requirements that you will need to be able to access funds anywhere, especially as regards this corporate funds, either from Nexim Bank or the Bank of Industry. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Adam. Thank you for calling. Do stay on the program. All right, I think one of the issues Adams was trying to raise was the issue of having these miners form a cooperative, because he's not a miner, I guess. So he's thinking about empowerment on how to either mobilize them, put them together, probably get one license as a cooperative and run on that license. Is that possible?
Yeah, what you're doing, what you're supposed to do is to you have a cooperative. A cooperative is not less than 10 persons. Okay, not less than 10 persons, and then you ensure that you register with the Department of Artisanal and Small Scale Mining. Your cooperative is registered, is known by the state, is known by the federal government. There's a registration you do at the state level. There's a registration you do at the federal level, and then at the end of the day, you realize that you're formalized. Now, even the license that you operate with, you are either operating on on a exploration license or small scale mining lease or a mining lease or a quarry lease or water utility lease also, because these are licenses that you must operate. You can't operate without any license. So what we are advocating for is for miners to ensure that they are operating under a particular cooperative that is also registered under a particular license. So because you can't operate in the on isolation. No, you must operate under a particular license, under a particular cadastral unit that will aid you to be able to even the real investors that have big cadastral units. You realize that yes, the artisanal miners are one way or the other operating in under those licenses. So what Ziva is doing is to say yes, form yourself into groups, form yourself into cooperatives, no matter how small. Just cooperative. Just make sure you're in different groups. Register the name. Go to your state and then register the cooperative and formalize. And that's what makes you out from the cliche of illegality.
Okay. All right. As we wrap up on today's edition of the program, what do we hope to see from Ziva Community Initiative?
Okay, listeners out there, this program will be running every Thursday by same time, 12 to 1. And for those that are interested in investing in the mining sector, Nigeria's mining sector is one sector that we have not started at all. We're still scratching the surface compared to other countries out there. So as investors, as even miners, as potential miners, as community gatekeepers, you have a lot to do. You have a major role to play. We know the sector is exclusively for the federal government. However, the state have a major role they play. The minerals underneath belongs to the federal. The land belongs to the state. You can't access the mineral without touching the land. So how can we have a synergy between the state and the federal government? How can we come to a balance point and have a more sustainable mining sector in Nigeria? And that is what Ziva is doing. That is what Ziva is advocating for. And that's what we have been advocating and we will not stop advocating for, because we know the potentials that our mining sector have in stock. The mining sector has not contributed more than 1% to the GDP, which is very worrisome, despite the potential, despite the minerals that we have, despite the minerals that are scattered out there. Yet we are still living in penuries. We are still living in poverty, abject for poverty. So we're advocating that every relevant stakeholder to put hands together to ensure that we have a more sustainable mining sector in Nigeria.
Thank you very much. On this note, listener, we'll end today's maiden edition of the program brought to you by Ziva Community Initiative. And our topic of discuss today was an introduction to ASM, that's artisanal and small scale mining, and the energy transition in Nigeria. My guest has been Mr. Omajo Ogedo, the acting executive director at Ziva Community Initiative. It's been a pleasure having you on the program, sir.
It's a pleasure also. Thank you very much.
All right, listen, the program will make a return same time next week. Do join us for another thrilling and insightful discourse. And in conclusion, artisanal and small-scale mining holds significant potential in Nigeria's journey towards a sustainable energy future. So, by focusing on responsible and regulated mining practices, Nigeria can ensure that its rich mineral resources contribute to the global energy transition while improving local livelihoods. My name is Stephen Igo. Good afternoon, and join us same time next week. Have a lovely day. This program is brought to you by Ziva Community Initiative, supported by Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, promoting sustainable artisanal and small-scale mining practices for Nigeria's energy transition.